Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. You know, we love to take these super fascinating topics and really get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, really kind of unpack them and see what's going on there.
Today we're going to be talking about raising bilingual children.
Always a popular topic.
It is. This time, though, we're going to be looking specifically at the challenges and the strategies for those preschool years.
Oh yeah, it's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. Those little sponges, they're soaking up everything.
Absolutely.
So to guide us through this, we're going to be turning to a YouTube channel called Raised in Thailand.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's hosted by a guy named Bill, and I think you really enjoy his approach. He has a series called the Minority Language Success Series.
Okay, so he's really targeting that specific challenge.
Yes, and he breaks it down.
Which is so important because it can feel overwhelming, right? You've got all this advice coming at you from all these different directions.
It's like drinking from a fire hose. But he's got this whole roadmap laid out, and today we're going to be focusing on part 5 of that series, which tackles those preschool years, like we said, 4 and 5 years old.
Yeah, a pivotal age.
And as any parent of a preschooler knows, it's like they entered this new world. It's so exciting, but also a little bit daunting because it's like the majority language just kind of takes over.
Well, especially when they start going to preschool, right? I mean, they're suddenly immersed in an environment where most of the kids, the teachers, everyone's primarily speaking majority language.
Yeah, and it's easy to see how the minority language can kind of get pushed to the side a little bit.
And it's not just about playground conversations or, the social aspect. It's about how they're understanding the world, how they're developing those complex language skills.
Right. They're having this huge cognitive growth spurt, right?
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Abstract thinking, putting sentences together, understanding grammar. It's all happening so fast. And this is a prime time for learning any language. But it also means they're super susceptible to language shift if you're not actively supporting that minority language.
And that's exactly what Bill gets into in this part 5. He offers some really practical strategies for parents, and I love how he frames it. It's about creating these language bridges between school and home.
Language bridges, I like that.
So, for example, he talks about learning the key vocabulary your child is using at preschool, and then finding ways to introduce those same terms, but in the minority language at home.
So it's about empowering them to talk about their day, all the new things they're learning, but in both languages.
Exactly. Giving them the tools they need to express themselves fully.
And I think this ties into what we've talked about before, regarding additive bilingualism. We're not trying to replace one language with another, right?
We want that richness.
Exactly. We want to build both languages simultaneously. And this really helps to do that.
And, thinking about what we've talked about before with research and how important a child's attitude is towards the minority language, this is huge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if they see it as relevant to their daily life, even in a school setting, they're more likely to embrace it.
Right. It's not just for talking to grandma on the weekends.
Exactly.
It's for talking about dinosaurs.
Exactly.
So Bill suggests this thing called a daily school story time. And the idea is that the child recounts their day, but they do it in the minority language.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, and he stresses it's not just about building vocabulary.
Right.
It's about keeping the language connected to their lived experiences.
So it becomes a tool for processing their day, for expressing their emotions, for, making sense of the world around them.
It normalizes it.
Exactly. And that normalization is critical, especially when you think about that research we discussed from the International Journal of Bilingualism.
Of the child's attitude, right?
Yes. Their attitude toward the minority language plays a huge role in how much they use it.
So the more we can do to make it a natural part of their world, the better.
It's not just about what we as parents do. It's about how they perceive the language.
So the school story time, it's like a little ritual. You set aside some time each day and they get to tell you all about their adventures in preschool, but they're doing it in the minority language.
And I bet it leads to some really great conversations, too.
I'm sure it does. It's a chance for them to practice and for you to really connect with them on that level.
And it also gives you a window into their world at school.
Exactly.
Which can be really valuable.
Yeah, because sometimes they come home and you're like, what did you do today?
Nothing.
Right. You're like, but you were gone for 8 hours.
I just played.
Exactly. So this is like a way to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, I like that.
So Bill doesn't stop there. He also delves into the world of preschool favorites. He's talking about adapting songs, crafts, games, all into the minority language.
So smart, because at this age, play is their work. It's how they learn best.
Exactly. And we know that they love repetition.
Oh, yeah. They'll watch the same movie 50 times in a row if you let them.
So why not use that to our advantage roles?
Yeah.
They're singing The Wheels on the Bus in English at school. Let's sing it in the minority language at home.
Exactly. And it keeps the language fun and engaging for them. It doesn't feel like work.
Right. It's just part of their world.
And it shows them that the minority language isn't just for, talking to family or for specific situations. It can be used for everything.
For all the things they love.
Exactly.
And he even suggests going a step further and creating these special minority language projects. So let's say they're learning about animals at preschool. Well, at home, you could do a deep dive into animals in the minority language. Read books, do crafts, maybe even plan a trip to the zoo and talk about all the animals in the minority language.
Oh, that's such a good idea because it shows them that the language has a real purpose. It's not just something that's confined to the home.
Yeah.
It's a tool for learning and exploring.
It's building that language dominance.
Exactly. And I think that's key because they're getting so much exposure to the majority language at school that we need to create those opportunities for the minority language to really shine.
It's like these pockets of immersion.
Right. It's showing them that this language isn't just for basic communication. It's for exploring their interests and learning new things and having fun.
And that's when the magic really happens.
Absolutely. When they start to associate the language with positive experiences.
And I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive, where we're going to talk about those moments when the two languages inevitably collide.
Code switching.
Yes. And how to navigate that in a way that supports both languages.
Seems fascinating. I can't wait.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, so we're back. And we've been talking about all these amazing strategies for making the minority language fun and engaging for our little preschoolers.
Right, really building it into their lives.
Yeah, but, let's be real for a second.
Uh-oh, what are you thinking?
It's not always sunshine and rainbows.
True.
There are going to be those moments when the two languages kind of bump into each other.
Oh, yeah, the inevitable code switching.
Exactly. And I think it's something a lot of parents worry about.
Oh, for sure. They hear their kids mixing languages and they think, oh, no, am I doing something wrong? Is this going to hurt their language development?
Right. It's like this fear that they're going to end up with this jumbled mess of a language.
But the reality is it's totally normal.
Totally. It's a natural part of being bilingual, especially at this age.
Their brains are still figuring it all out.
And Bill, he actually cautions against being too corrective.
Like, don't jump on every little mistake.
Exactly. He says it can actually be counterproductive.
Because you don't want to make them feel self-conscious about speaking.
Right. You want to keep that flow going.
Yeah, encourage them to communicate.
So he suggests this technique called repeat and expand.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So instead of stopping the conversation to correct a word or phrase, you just repeat what the child said, but you do it entirely in the minority language.
Oh, so you're kind of modeling the correct usage.
Exactly, but in a very gentle way.
Yeah, you're not putting them on the spot.
And you could even add a little bit of extra information to expand on what they said.
So it's like a sneaky teaching moment.
Exactly, and you're keeping the focus on the communication.
Not on grammatical perfection.
It's so important at this age.
We want them to love talking.
Yes, and to feel confident in both languages.
So this repeat and expand technique sounds like a great way to do that.
And Bill has another suggestion that I found really interesting.
Okay, lay on me.
He talks about creating designated minority language zones in the home.
What, like little linguistic islands?
Yeah. Exactly. So it could be the dinner table or a specific play area.
And in those zones, you only speak the minority language.
Right. It's like this agreement you make as a family.
It takes the pressure off constantly having to negotiate language choice.
Right. It becomes more automatic.
And I bet it really helps to shift the language dominance in those specific contexts.
It's like a mini immersion experience.
Right, in the comfort of your own home.
And speaking of things becoming more automatic, Bill also talks about the importance of pre-literacy activities in the minority language.
Oh, that's so crucial. I mean, those early skills really lay the foundation for a later reading and writing success.
And he gives some great examples.
Like what?
Letter recognition games, rhyming activities, storytelling, all in the minority language.
I love it. Keep it fun. Keep it engaging.
And don't forget about writing activities, even simple things like tracing letters in sand or creating cards for family members.
Or labeling things around the house.
Exactly. Anything to get them interacting with the written language in a playful way.
Because research shows that those early literacy skills in one language can actually transfer to another.
So it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
And since we're talking about early learning, we can't forget about the elephant in the room.
Technology.
Technology.
It's everywhere.
It is. And it can be a double-edged sword.
But it can also be a powerful tool for language learning if we use it intentionally.
And that's what Bill emphasizes.
What does he recommend?
He talks about educational apps and programs in the minority language.
There are so many great resources out there these days.
And those video calls with family members who speak the minority language, those are still gold.
It creates that authentic need to communicate.
Which is so important, especially when they're spending most of their day immersed in the majority language at school.
So we've got all these great strategies from Bill.
He's giving us a solid foundation for those preschool years.
But you know what I keep thinking about?
What's that?
It's not just about what happens within the family.
Oh, you're talking about those bigger societal forces?
Exactly. A child's language journey is shaped by their family, by their community, by the messages they receive from the world around them.
And this is where I think that research we've discussed about children's attitudes becomes even more critical.
Right. It's not just about what parents do. It's about how children perceive the minority language.
If they sense that it's not valued or that it's somehow less important than the majority language, it's going to be harder for them to embrace it.
We need to think about how we as a society can create a more supportive environment for linguistic diversity.
And that's actually a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, even more to unpack.
We're going to explore those societal factors that influence language choices. And we'll talk about some concrete ways we can all contribute to a more inclusive linguistic landscape.
I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Me too. It's time we move beyond individual families and look at the bigger picture. So we've talked about, creating those supportive home environments, those positive attitudes. But I think it's time we zoom in on a specific setting that plays a huge role in all of this.
You're talking about school, right?
School, exactly.
Yeah, it's such a critical space for language development, especially at this age.
Because it can really make or break all the efforts that parents are making at home.
Right. And, we've touched on this idea of shifting perspectives, moving away from that deficit-based view of bilingualism.
Where it's seen as a problem.
Right, like something that needs to be fixed.
Instead of this incredible asset.
Exactly. I mean, imagine if schools really embraced bilingualism.
Celebrated it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Celebrated it, saw it as a strength.
What would that look like?
I think it starts with teacher training.
Because a lot of teachers just aren't equipped to work with bilingual students effectively.
Yeah, it's a specialized skill set.
It's not something you just pick up overnight.
Right, you need a deep understanding of how bilingual language acquisition works.
The stages.
Yeah.
The different ways languages interact.
And the influence of cultural background.
I love that.
And teachers need to feel confident in their ability to create those inclusive classrooms.
Where all languages are valued. So it's not just about individual teachers, though.
Right. It's about the whole school system.
The curriculum, the policies, the interactions between everybody.
Even teachers, students, parents.
So what are some concrete things schools could do to really integrate those minority languages in a meaningful way?
Well, I've heard great things about dual language programs.
Me too.
Those are fantastic because they immerse students in both the majority language and the minority language.
So they're learning content in both.
And it benefits everyone, not just the bilingual students.
So it's like this cross-cultural understanding.
Right. It creates a more equitable learning environment for everyone.
And what about students who maybe are starting to lose touch with their home language?
As they become more immersed in the majority language at school,
Exactly.
heritage language courses can be a great option.
It's a chance to reconnect with their roots.
And to develop those language skills further.
And it sends such a powerful message that these languages are valued.
That they have a place within the academic world.
Exactly. And even beyond specific programs.
There are so many ways to integrate minority languages into everyday teaching.
Like how?
Think about history lessons, social studies, even science.
Yeah, okay.
You can incorporate primary sources that are written in different languages. You can invite guest speakers from diverse linguistic backgrounds.
That would be amazing.
You can encourage students to share stories from their own family histories.
I love that.
It just brings the subject matter to life in such a rich and authentic way.
It makes it real.
And it shows them that minority languages are relevant.
That they have value beyond the home.
Exactly.
It's about expanding their worldview.
Helping them to understand the interconnectedness of language and culture.
And ultimately, it's about creating a more just and equitable society.
Where all languages and cultures are respected and celebrated.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of raising bilingual preschoolers, I think it's clear that it takes a village.
It really does.
It's about those supportive home environments, positive societal attitudes, and inclusive educational practices.
It's about recognizing that bilingualism is a gift,
A strength.
an asset that enriches individuals, communities, and society as a whole.
So a huge thank you to Bill from Raised in Thailand for inspiring this conversation and for providing such practical guidance to parents.
And to all of you listening, keep those conversations going, challenge those negative stereotypes, and celebrate the beauty of languages.
Until next time, keep diving deep.